So it is now 5:31 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. All right, so are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Have any? Does anybody else have any? I do notice that we have Mike at the very beginning. He's not on yet. Do we know if he's
Well, he might come in.
person or?
He might come in before.
Okay. All right, so are there any other?
Yeah, we'll just wait
We'll
to
wait,
see if
okay.
he comes in
Okay.
before.
All right. Any other adjustments to the agenda? All right. So can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of November 29th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of November 29th, 2023. Anybody have anything? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I hear a motion for the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of the review.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated December 15, 2023, in the amount of $19,400.89.
Pretty standard.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions on the payroll? No? Okay, moving on.
Accounts payable dated December 2nd through December 15th, 2023, in the amount of $123,364.50. In this warrant is Group C, social agencies.
Okay.
Haven House Consulting's in there, that's their first bill for grant writing. Hannaford's is in there, that is a White Whitney request and will be reimbursed
Okay, from the
through
fund.
their account.
Okay.
What else?
What is it?
M&T Bank, $8,027.25 is the last payment on the 2019 fire service squad pickup.
Okay, good. So another one falls off the list.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Some taxpayer refunds, looks like.
yes,
Okay.
yep. There's like 3,
Yeah.
maybe 4, I think there's 4.
Anybody have anything?
Yeah, question, Howard Fairfield,
Howard Fairfield for $6,454.61. That's 2 invoices. One invoice was $5,900. It was for carbide plow. It's for the wing and the plow. So it's the bottom piece that goes on the wing and the plow.
Okay.
Yeah. They come in 3 and 4 foot sections, and you have to have like 3 per. So it's
I
like-
see.
Yeah, I had to ask Brian about that one. I'm like, what is this for, Brian?
Okay.
But it's for equipment for the highway department.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments online? Any public comments in the room? I did not open it up to the select board. I need to do that. I try to do that before I open it up. Are there any public comments on the select board? All right. Hearing none, let's move on to the town manager's report.
So quickly, I just want to mention the library transformation. If no one's noticed, the new seating wall is in and it looks gorgeous.
It's
beautiful.
Yeah.
We're nicer out, we should be meeting there.
Right now. And the trees were planted prior to the build, and if you haven't noticed, the bushes have been planted as well in front. So I want everyone just to kind of notice as that transforms, because it's looking really nice.
Next Thursday, we're gonna have a little hot cider party in the new seating area if you guys wanna come
I saw
by.
that.
Okay.
Sound like there might be a fire too.
There might be. It depends on what we measure says when he visits tomorrow. Thanks for facilitating that, Karen.
You're welcome. So Town Hall Garden is transforming as well. I spoke to Rod Painmark because he had originally done the landscaping here. And the 2 big evergreen bushes out front, they're big and they're just going to continue to grow. They are blocking the view when you're trying to pull out on the south end. And his comment is, well, you basically pull them out
Okay.
and he plants either smaller ones, let them grow. So at some point, we may have to consider that, just for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to let you know about that. And Putney Shine still has lights if folks in the village want to take advantage of that. You reach out to Gail Murray and or Kate Hudson, and it's not too late. I think it looks nice lit up.
I keep noticing more lights
Yeah.
going up in different spots. It's awesome.
I attended the revitalization of the downtown task force last Tuesday, December 5th. There's some really good energy coming from this task force, and I foresee, town government, us, supporting some of the initiatives that will eventually come from this group. This group has created new subcommittees, and anyone can join. Invitation is out there. So, and as a side note, Town Hall Communications Liaison will be posting agendas, to all VCRD task force meetings. They do create minutes too. We don't always get the minutes, but we're gonna try our best to get that information on our website. But anyone interested, I would encourage folks to join a task force. There's still some energy out there with these task forces, so I do like what we're seeing coming out of these task forces. I also attended the housing task force last night. Again, some good work is being done, and that one's a little bit harder and more challenging, but good energy in the room. And Amy Tomaso was at the meeting. She's from Vermont Department of Housing and Community Development, so she's going to work with the group. And they did a site walk to 4 different properties yesterday, and they're starting to vision where infill housing can happen. And there's a lot of collaboration and they're working together, so yeah. So I think there's gonna be some good things coming out of that task force as well. We met with Haven House Consultant on December 8th at Town Hall. That would be Lisa Papazian, myself, and Sue Coakley. And at some point, this board will have to review the project and the plan layouts. But we're still we're looking at grants, we're looking at a lot of different things. And the thing with the grants is there's certain deadlines and you have to be on top of them because that grant might not be there next year. So we're trying to plan accordingly and not be reactive, but we still got a lot coming in. So the level 2 energy assessment was completed, but we haven't seen a report yet. The HVAC engineering study was done too. We did get a draft. We met with the engineer last week, Lisa Papazian and I. We had questions. He's gonna finalize that report for us. And we should probably see it, we should hopefully see it by Friday.
We'll see it by Friday, but we can give her a draft, she said.
Right. So a lot of good work is happening, and I'm very excited about all of it too. So, and hopefully all the pieces fall in place. Let's see. I've been in touch with Larry Slyson regarding the Great Hydro relicensing.
Okay.
Because several towns will have to do the process. He reached out to George Sansucci. We haven't heard anything yet, but the Connecticut River Conservancy wants to do a presentation too.
Okay.
Maybe in January, February, before the comment period ends.
Okay.
For the select board, if you have any comments regarding the relicensing. So I'm just putting that on your radar, but I will keep reminding you.
So Sansucci would be doing like appraisal of flowage rates. Is that why we would be contacting him?
They look at all that and then they negotiate with the State of Vermont Education Department for a fair assessment.
Okay.
And the last one we did was a 5-year assessment, and it expired April 1st of this year.
The agreement that we came up with. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I'll keep you posted on that. And there is grant funding to pay for those services.
Good.
So it's wise that we do this. An FYI, there was a Tier 1 cannabis production license for 13 Kimmel Hill Road. I've been in contact with the state of Vermont regarding this permit, and I pulled the file. So there is a process, and I have to understand it better, but there is local.
We should
zoning.
have been involved. They should have
Correct.
known that. Yeah.
We should have been notified first.
Right.
There was a site inspection of the building and there's no violations, but there's no local permit in place. As the cannabis control commissioners, there should have been approval from this board first.
Apparently the state did not receive the email that we sent in August. That's their claim. So I went digging through my
Well, I
inbox.
found the same email.
Right.
So
It's like, no, this
I'm
got
not
sent to
quite-
you last year.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
It was basically the resolution of the cannabis.
Yes.
You were on the board at that point. Yeah, so
Yes.
it was a resolution saying that we had done what they had asked us to do in order to form a control
Right.
board. And they apparently, there was some signals crossed and they figured we didn't have one or something, I don't know. But that should have gone before us, before it had been
And
approved.
what is the application for?
Tier 1.
Tier 1
Is it retail?
Cannabis production.
Production.
So I don't really know what that means. I don't know if it's the building right next to next stage.
Right, this side of next stage.
No, the other side. Because you have to go in.
No, it's this
Yeah,
side.
it is.
It's
It's
this
right in the middle. Yes, yep.
Yeah.
So, I'll follow through with that as a zoning administrator
Okay.
and get back to the board and see how we
Yeah.
rectify this.
It's not as, I mean, just so everybody's aware, it's not as though this board has a lot of authority over it. The state has really locked down how much authority the towns have to regulate that locally. But it still provides us with notice that that's happening, so
Right,
knowing about it after the fact is not as awesome.
no. It's more paperwork.
Yeah.
One other item I have, so December 18th, this building will be without heat for the entire day. So Irving has scheduled to replace the heat exchanger,
Right.
which means they're gonna have to tear the furnace completely down, rebuild it. I'm gonna be here. I have one other staff member that will be here. I have two that are off that day, but somebody has to be in the building, and it'll probably be me, so they can get in and out.
Just warm.
Yeah. Yeah. I got that heater in there.
Yeah, I
so
saw that.
I'll work in
Saw that
this
monster
with
heater.
that. Yeah, so that's all I have right now.
Okay. Any questions from the select board on the manager's report? Any questions or comments online about the town manager's report? Any questions in the room? Hearing none. Moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. First, we have the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report, which is Mike Mrowicki. Hi.
Hi, thank you. If I could backtrack a little to the last issue that Karen brought up. I was made aware of this recently when you forwarded the emails and looked into it today, and we came to that understanding that the state didn't have a record of what you had sent to them. If it would be helpful, I can follow up, and if need be, in January, we can make sure that this happens, because you all should know about this, and if it needs statutory relief, I think it would be an easy fix, because I think towns, even though the town approved this, theoretically, I think when specific issues come up, it's important for the town to get that information, to be part of the process with the state, so I'd be glad to look into that for you.
Okay, thank you.
And there's another town issue that Eileen and I have communicated with about whether there needs to be statutory relief in regards to town committees, and I think, is it the conflict of interest policies?
It's the definition of the public officer,
Yeah.
yes.
So that might be an easy fix as well, but I'm glad to continue working on that and make sure that the town doesn't have exposure and
Okay,
things are more clear.
good.
Thank you, Mike, for doing
You
that.
bet.
Yeah.
Well,
The
that's why
clearer
you
the
hired me.
statutes are, the less conflicts we'll have, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so thank you. To the Affordable Housing Committee, first thing I'd like to do is give thanks and make mention for Eva Monda. Eva had been a member of that committee from when it started, maybe 15 years ago, and until she passed this summer, she was still a member of the committee. I just want to take a moment and thank her posthumously for that, all her work on that, and so many other things in town, but she is missed, so we recognize her work on that. We come to the select board perhaps as a start of a process for what's next. What's next for this committee? And there's some suggestions that I can offer, but the first suggestion would be, I think an easy one, and that would be to simplify the name of the committee. And unfortunately, the term affordable has taken on pejorative connotations in town, which I think limits the effectiveness of the committee and limits how people perceive the committee. And so my suggestion to that would be for the select board just to change the name and maybe better reflect the scope of what we're looking at as well. And I can just say, as someone who started out in Putney in a trailer and then eventually was able to build our house with lots of help from family. It's not easy when you hear terms like trailer trash thrown around, or what affordable means. I just want to reflect on that for a bit to say that maybe we can do better. In regards to the committee, I hope that this may be a start of a bigger process too. And the other piece that I would suggest, maybe it's easy for you too, is to put any further reflections on what the committee should look like on hold. And it's because of a couple of factors. One of them is there's a housing study that's going to be that's proposed, and I don't know where that is at.
We're pending final review from the Department of Housing and Community Development. We'll know by the 21st of December. There's two things that are related, the bylaw modernization grant and then the housing needs assessment and action plan. And both of them we'll hear about on the 21st, by the 21st of December.
So given that may be really helpful information as we move forward. And the other is recognition that there are other people and entities in town that are looking at the housing landscape. And what I think may be helpful is if they conclude their work and we are able to look at what they've come up with and then see if we can fold it into something that's more consolidated with what the town is looking to do. So given those considerations, that's what I would put in front of the board. We're certainly open to whatever suggestions the town has for this as well, but hopefully that makes your job a little easier tonight. But we're certainly open as being here to serve the town people and to work with you to what you have to say.
Yeah, I've got a couple things to say. One is name change. I thought we already did that for some reason. I thought we were already on to housing, so I support that 100%, and I don't think there'll be any controversy around that. In terms of the charge of the committee, I guess, I think as I see the work that's going on with the task forces in town, I don't think it's going to end, and then I don't think it's going to look like that. That they come to the end of their work, and then the town committee picks up from there. I don't see that being the model that's going to happen. I see more. In part because my understanding of what that group wants to do, some of it is town related and some of it is not appropriate for the town to be involved in. So I see them as kind of two different things. And I guess I would like to see the town committee be the conduit for kind of running interference, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right word, but being a conduit between that task force and the town and bringing to us the things that are town specific, things that we as a town might want to be addressing of the things of the many different things that they're looking at. So that would be my preferred charge. And I see a need to do it sooner rather than later, in part because we're coming up to ARPA
Right.
possibilities for getting some ARPA funding. And it's really through the town committee that if there's anything that we might want to support financially, housing-wise, it would come through you as a town committee to us as a select board, since that's the way we set up ARPA. So for those reasons, I would love to see the committee, resurrect quickly and serve some of those functions.
Okay, any other comments on the board? Christine, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the time to talk about the VCRD input discussions we've had. I'm from the Housing Solutions Task Force, and the co-chairs couldn't be there, so they asked me to come and talk a little bit about this on this topic. And we spoke with a couple representatives of VCRD earlier this week about the possibility of maybe having a VCRD serve to facilitate a discussion between the Housing Solutions Task Force and the Housing Committee, because they do come from different directions. The Housing Committee is a municipal related entity and the task force is not. And we're both doing good work and try to, in some ways, on the same path, and in most ways on the same path, but we have different angles of approach and different capacity. The task force could cover different areas and in some ways be more nimble than a municipal committee could be. And so that is something that we would like to bring forward as VCRD, willing to facilitate a conversation, to make, to get direction, to make sure we're efficient, to make sure we're not working at cross purposes, and we are looking for input and support for a facilitated discussion.
Okay. I think, go ahead.
Sue Coakley. I just wanted to say that I really am glad to hear about this type of dialogue, and I'm very glad to hear of the changes that the Housing Committee is talking about. I will offer that the Housing Needs Assessment and Action Plan, what the town will do to address our housing needs, is designed and actually written into the grant to work with our future Housing Solutions Committee. I had asked and they said that was fine. The Housing, well, we'll call it now the Housing Committee, not the Affordable Housing Committee. And a few others, equity, inclusion, to build a larger dialogue about meeting our housing needs based on research that we're learning together about with the speakers program that will coordinate with, and I've talked to Ari and Marcel about coordinating that. So I think that'll be a 9-month process. We'll find out soon. We expect we would hire a consultant and be done this fall to have an action plan recommendations that will also inform the zoning regs, which again affects the whole conversation, right? Where do we land on what needs to change in zoning regs, or the village center designation, or the neighborhood development area designations? It'll be a place to learn about those things that are very fundamental to understanding a number of solutions. It doesn't replace the work of what the task force is doing, but it's a way of bringing the conversation together and learning together. So I just think that might be an element, and I certainly envision this type of collaboration. And we would begin, if we get a consultant on board, it would be a March timeframe by the time we get the funding and the RFP and yada yada. We might form the advisory committee that is a structure of this before we engage the consultant, just so that we're on board about what needs to happen. So it's a way of building the dialogue before we even begin the research. So that's the vision, that's the plan, and we'll be hitting the ground in January. We'll assume that we get the grant, we hope.
But it is all based on the fact that-
And we'll learn soon enough.
Okay.
And there may be pathways to do the work anyway, because it's really needed. And then in January, I would be leading the Planning Commission, probably with a special meeting, to figure out how we're going to get everything on the ground and get 1 or 2 projects moving. So I just think as you're thinking about this transition and what's going on, it's also part of what is planned. And if we don't get any of the funding, the zoning, I should say, the zoning bylaw modernization has the same design, right? Same project advisory committee. And so anyway, I just think it's something to consider in what to do. But I'm very excited, and the Planning Commission is very happy to see these different initiatives. We need all of these, and how do we build a conversation together?
Okay, thank you. There are comments online? Further comments on Mike?
Sure. Thank you. All helpful suggestions, and what would be helpful is to see a charge in writing, and that's where it might take a process. Just speaking for myself, I don't think for the whole committee yet, but I have attended a number of the meetings for the group here, and from what I see, there's certainly some good energy there. There's things happening, but I would also, my perception is the energy is somewhat diffuse right now, that there are many subcommittees. Some of them are active in doing things. Some of them are not active, where things are not happening with them. And I think what would be helpful is if there was a discernment process for that group to say what a tighter mission is and what's going to be happening for the future. And if there are committees that are not happening, are you going to try, or subcommittees, do you want to try and reinvigorate them and have active people on them? Or do you want to consolidate that into just one big entity? So my sense is, I'm not sure you're ready to enter into a process with another entity yet.
I went back and forth.
Yeah, I think the way I would look at it is what the task force is doing is really independent. Like, I'm not envisioning, these 2 groups joining forces and working. What I'm envisioning is that I would like to see the town housing committee standing up so that as the task force has issues or ideas or brings to fruition something that connects to the town, that they have some place to go and can get some traction. Because they're still doing all kinds of stuff over here as a task force, and I think that's okay. I don't think we need to expect the task force to have all its ducks in a row before it has some ideas that might need to be addressed by the town. So
I agree with that.
I do too.
And as far as the charge is concerned, I don't have the old charge in front of me. I'm happy to take a stab at it and then run it by, obviously run it by the housing committee and possibly even the task force, just to see if there's any pieces to that task force that really is more served. Like Peg says, maybe that some of those tasks that you're trying to take on, maybe they're better served as a town committee. I don't know. That might not be an issue, but just to make sure that everybody who's working on this, eventually, we want everybody to move forward in the same direction, maybe in different paths, but in the same direction. And I agree with Peg. There's parts that are definitely things that only the town can do, and there are also things that only private citizens can do. And I think it's great if those 2 forces of energy can continue on side by side. I have Elizabeth Moore online.
Hi. In our very comprehensive, almost all-day session yesterday, I was feeling more cohesion and more energy and more connectedness to the town, and felt very invigorated by that. And I felt like there's been a lot of initiative and a lot more meetings happening with this task force. I'm not sure how many times the PAHC has met in the last year, but we've been meeting significantly, and it seems like a lot of the programs that we're tapping into with the state, that people in the state are excited about, a level of town and task force collaboration. So I just wanted to put that forward, that it seemed like they were really embracing and encouraging the collaboration as well.
Okay, good to know. Are there, Elizabeth, you still have your hand up. Did you have another thing to say?
No, sorry, I
it's
just
okay.
got it.
I just looked away briefly and it was still up, so okay, good. All right, so are there other comments online? Any other comments in the room? Christine?
I do agree with what's being said, is that things are in formation stages and they're waxing and waning. And part of the suggestion originates, for facilitated discussion, originates from the desire to not be moving in the same direction or moving in different directions that are mutually exclusive. So a coordination of effort has some benefit. We may not be ready for that yet, but at some point, I don't know when that is, I think it is worth considering having that coordination.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments on the board? I just wanted to echo a little bit of what Mike said in the beginning about the use of our language when we're talking about this issue. It is, it's a very difficult issue. There are very real problems with our towns and our society in general. But I do want to I just want to reiterate that when people move into our community, they are now community members. And so when you're talking about people who live in mobile homes, manufactured homes, or in subsidized housing, or originally came here from out of state, or from out of town, you're talking about your fellow community members now. And those things do hit hard. And so I just want everybody to be cognizant of that as we continue to talk about this issue, this very real issue that has been in our town for a very long time. Are there any other comments in the room? Any other comments online? Okay, thank you, Mike, for bringing that up today.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'll try to take a stab at what we've got going, and then I'll send it your way, and you can share it with the Housing Committee and maybe the VCRD Committee if you feel like that's the right time to do that. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, cool. So the next thing is the Planning Commission status report, which is Sue.
Thank you, Sue Coakley, Chair of the Planning Commission. It's my pleasure to address you all tonight. This is my monthly report. Though in this monthly report, I have to say there's a very important thing to happen this evening, and that will be later in the agenda, not now, but would be approval of the 2023 town plan that this community has been working together on for a whole year. Very exciting, really,
Save the fireworks.
Yes, and I have to give to the chair a letter that I hope you will sign this evening that will, when the plan, if and when the plan is approved.
Excuse me, Sue.
Yes?
Do you have extra copies?
of the report.
It's not in the packet.
I had sent it.
Yep, but it's not in the
I
packet.
don't have extra copies this week.
Okay.
Okay. That's the letter that I am distributing is a letter that is required. If the town is to have the Wyndham Regional Commission review the town plan for compliance to show that it meets the state goals for municipal plans as well as the format of it and it's compliant with the regional plan. It's been developed with all of that. It's been reviewed by the Wyndham Regional Commission earlier in the process, but there's a final review necessary to receive state funding. So the Wyndham Regional Commission recommends a letter of conveyance requesting their review, which they will conduct. I will note that it's fairly important to do it sooner than later. Our town plan expires this Saturday, the 16th of December. We have funding requests that are pending right now for a housing study and some other work. And we also will be putting in for the village center designation renewal as well as the neighborhood development area renewal. We must have an approved town plan. It needs to be reviewed by the Wyndham Regional Commission in time for that. The Wyndham Regional Commission has kindly said that if they receive an approved town plan this week, they will hold a public hearing on January 3rd with 15-day notice on the town plan for those purposes. And we'll have it reviewed and completed by mid-January so the select board can approve a resolution with that support to request renewal of the village center designation and the neighborhood development area. It's a long-winded thing, but it is all very connected. That's why we're trying to be done this week. But it's very important to do a lot of things. So anyway, that is, and I'm sorry I don't have copies. It was sent to everybody, the select board.
We did get it, it just didn't make it in the packet.
Yeah, I apologize. So that is one thing that is done, and it reflects the edits were discussed at the meeting. Just for the record, I'll note there were 2 edits that were subject to Planning Commission review, and those were 2 maps. And one map was map 2, the current land use map, and the question was, what had the Planning Commission's decision be in the policy regarding how to show a property like the Forest for Learning? And we found that, in fact, we had approved it to be listed as an institutional property. It was not listed that way. It is now in the final version listed that way. We also had discussed at the same meeting in September about the second issue, which is map 6, ecological and forest resources. And the question that came up at the select board meeting on the 29th of November about that was whether or not the parcel of land that had been donated by Nan Hendricks on Route 5, sometimes called Parcel 0, should be listed as town-owned conservation land. And we looked it up and found that our decision rule, our policy for how properties were listed on that map was how they were listed on the tax maps. And it turns out that property, while it's considered and listed on other maps as conservation land, does not have a conservation easement on it. Therefore, we did not identify it as town-owned conservation land. So I just wanted that to be on the record. It's in the report, and that was the thing left. So the final version did not change map 6, only map 2, and then the other edits were made. So that is what I have on the town plan. Any questions about that?
No. Does anybody else have any? No. Anybody in the room? Mike?
I would like the minutes to reflect recognition for all the work that's gone on for a long time now. And all the people, I mean, Sue's done a great job organizing, but a lot of people have put input, a lot of the public have put in input. There's an amazing amount of work that's gone on here, and I hope we can recognize this good work that's been done.
Thank you, Mike.
I second that wholeheartedly. That's, the amount of work that all of you have been putting in has been amazing to me. I've been so grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's been our pleasure. It's been wonderful to have a community conversation that's felt very, very healing, actually, in many ways, and good for me as relatively new returning to the town. So thank you. So, of course, we're trying to fly the plane as we're building it, and use that analogy again. So my next part of my report is about how we're implementing recommendations of the town plan. I've already mentioned to you, we're waiting to hear on those 2 grant proposals. So the one on the housing needs assessment and action plan, and also the zoning bylaws. Let's see, the other thing, I just want to say back on the town plan, I will attend the January 3rd hearing. Anybody else can attend it. I've committed to attending it. I've invited the other planning commissioners. It's not necessary, but we will be there, and I'll report back to you about what comes out of that.
Okay.
Let's see, my next report on town plan implementation has been, I've been working, as the town manager was mentioning, on the town hall renovation. It is part of the town plan to do that work, and it's been thought about since 2004. Right behind Karen is the picture of that. I really celebrate the collaboration with the Putney Historical Society and the town to do this. And you'll be talking later about a grant proposal to get things started. I strongly recommend, and I'm working with the team to develop a comprehensive view of what the town hall renovation will be, and we work to bring that to you as soon as possible. The Village Center neighborhood development area designations, the Planning Commission will meet in its first meeting in January. I think it'll be the first business meeting of the town, January 2nd. We'll be here for our first monthly meeting, and we'll review those applications so that we can recommend them to you for approval later in January. And we've already met with Richard and Maury to get his input about what's needed, and we will make our recommendation. The last thing is to implement the town plan. The Planning Commission met at its meeting with the Conservation Commission, has asked questions about some of the actions in the town plan, and we'll be working together to come up with data for things like how do we document wildlife corridors and habitats that would affect development regulations and rules. So we've begun that conversation, and we agreed that would be a good conversation to have expert consultant assistance with when we do the zoning reg modernization update. So I just wanted to let you know we're beginning that collaboration and discussion. And lastly, you will see in the report a list, a working list of technical assistance priorities to give to the Wyndham Regional Commission. The town was recently noticed that, in fact, Putney has been added to the towns that the Wyndham Regional Commission provides technical assistance to out of the state municipal technical assistance program. And they've asked us, the Wyndham Regional Commission, for a list of what we want help with. Well, I said, boy, do we have a list. So the list is attached to this report. A final list, a working list is due to the Wyndham Regional Commission next week. I'm working with the town manager on that list. I'll make sure this is all posted after the meeting so everybody can see it publicly. But it really looks like the town plan and things that need help in the town plan. So over just in the next 3 years, not the whole 8 years. So that's, I think that's really the last part of my report.
Yeah. Sue, can you tell us a bit about the technical assistance list?
The technical assistance list is 4 categories that the Wyndham Regional Commission said we can help you with. So they said we can help you with water supply and wastewater infrastructure, for example, feasibility studies, either conducting them or helping us put together proposals to undertake them. We had a couple of those that went on the list. Another is housing, primary housing for residents. So how can they assist the housing issue? For example, and I had already asked this earlier, I have them listed as advising the zoning bylaw modernization. In fact, they could possibly be a consultant on it. We'll see. They didn't know if they had capacity for that. But to be on the advisory committee as well as the housing needs assessment and action plan. So that's in here. But there's a number of other reasons to get their help with housing, but just to say housing generally. The third category was community recovery, workforce development, and business support. and I put something in there regarding the work the town is doing, economic development with Discover Putney, for example. And then climate change mitigation and resilience is the last one. And we mentioned some things from the town plan that really went to, in particular, the last chapter of the town plan asks actually the county and the state to look more broadly at the issue of resilience and risk that we have relative to climate, and to help us work to develop plans to address things beyond flooding, for example. And so that's listed here, including their help with the annual risk hazard mitigation plan review. So things they know they were already doing but are on our town plan. And then they have a final category that is other community economic development projects. So again, things that will look familiar are listed there. So it's just those 5 categories. They only have so much help they can provide, so giving them a list, they will help us figure out what they can help with. And I know the town manager has a couple of other items she wants to add to it, so. That's, maybe it's a long answer, but that's
Great,
that's
thank
the
you.
nature of it. And, you know, I think comments on the list are appreciated. And then there'll be a conversation with Wyndham Regional Commission in January when they begin to put together their comprehensive plan for what they're going to do and what they can offer at Putney.
Are there other comments on the board? Any comments online? Lisa?
Lisa Papazian. I'm just wondering, Sue, if you're thinking of changing the boundaries of either of the designations at this point?
We are thinking of that, and in fact, this came up when I was with the task force yesterday on housing. We feel that it's premature, there's not time to do a public process right now to talk about what that change should be. We have to have the application in by February, and I just mentioned all the steps we have to go through to be ready. There's no time for public discussion really in that. We can make an expansion request anytime. It's not just when you do the renewal. So the renewal simply is needed so we maintain the benefits that we have as a town right now from those 2 designations. We get that done in February. The Planning Commission's thought is as we go through the housing needs assessment and action plan and get into the bylaw modernization update, we'll have that'll be the public engagement process with information and data about what change is needed. And we can make that application at any time, and we'd like to do it with public discussion about what that should be. So we agreed to get done what we need to for now, and then have a process that's probably tied to those 2 grants, assuming something happens with that. But we would do something probably by the end of next year or early, 2025, if we don't really have clarity soon enough. That's the idea. Okay. And that could include looking at the issue, I know, Lisa, that you mentioned with Richard Amori when we were on the phone call about these, should Putney consider a downtown designation? And I know that's just a conversation something to think about.
I actually think that the downtown designation might be beyond what the capacity of the town is,
Right.
but I would welcome the opportunity to talk as from the task force from Discover Putney. I'm sure we would love input on the village center boundaries.
Absolutely. That is our intent, is to have community conversation about it.
Great, thank you.
So, thank you for that invitation, actually.
Is there other comments online or questions? Any other comments in the room? Any comments on the select board? Sue, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So moving on to Peg is escaping.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Do we need to take a break? Does anybody else need a break? Okay. All right. So moving on to the select board items, new business. The first one is the Putney Town Hall approval to submit the Paul Bruhn Grant for Town Hall window restoration project. So
You want to start? This is your baby.
Oh, okay.
Lisa. I'll support you.
Lisa Papazian for the Historical Society, Putney Historical Society. Sorry if I'm losing my voice. Was this the application request in the packet?
I think something's in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, it's in there.
So, well, I'll try to make this brief. We've been working with, Karen and I have been working to update the 2005 feasibility study on the renovation of the town hall. And we have a, not even schematic level sort of plan and an updated, very broad brush cost estimate, which we're working on. So in a lot of ways, we're not really ready to apply for this grant, but it's here. And I did talk to the Preservation Trust person who's running it, and they might not get the money again. And so I think there's no real downside to trying. So here we go. The thing about this grant is it's a focus on historic preservation in the historic building. She advised me to look at carving out a specific project from the whole renovation, and the window restoration seemed like the best idea that would fit, and she agreed. And then we've scrambled to come up with a real estimate on how much it would cost. And what we've come up with is basically a total cost of about $130,000. There's 31 windows, and at least $3,200 average each.
Okay.
I mean, the ones upstairs are 9 feet tall.
Wow.
These are not small, but they're not 9 feet tall. They're in decent shape. They're not really old,
Right.
but they are original, so they're 1871. So that, and then there's another $10,000 for new interior storm windows. And to be honest, we haven't fully explored the idea of interior, exterior, but they'll only pay for interior ones. So we're gonna try to go for that, see what happens. And the other thing about this grant, it's in increments of, well, we would be asking for $117,000 from them.
Okay.
There's another, so that was $110,000. There's a $10,000 contingency we're adding to the price. And then the last piece is it requires an easement, a preservation easement be put on the building.
Okay.
And for this grant, actually, for every $50,000, it's 5 years. So it's not it's not in perpetuity. I think it would be for 10 years, I'm guessing.
The easement.
The easement. And that requires a stewardship fund, because the easement requires someone to monitor the easement, and that is the Preservation Trust. So that's $7,500 estimate. And then there's another $2,500 roughly in documenting the building to write the easement. And that is actually something that I do professionally, and so I could donate that pro bono on behalf of the Historical Society. That's $2,500 value. So
I just needed a little more explanation about what the easement is.
yes,
I don't really
I'm
understand.
going there.
Oh,
I just
okay.
wanted to do the numbers.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Because that's the biggest
I don't
question, really.
understand what that means.
So in the end, we are total 130. We would request the grant writers that we've hired. It doesn't require a match, but it would be more attractive with a match, and they recommend 10%. So we would be looking to have a $13,000 match. So we ask them for 117, and we'd have a $13,000 match, of which 2,500 is my piece pro bono, and then the Historical Society last night approved $4,000 to be put towards this, and so we would be then looking to the select board to come up with the other $6,500.
Okay.
So that's the numbers.
Brings it down. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Easement. We have an easement, for example, in perpetuity on Next Stage, because we took money from VHCB, Vermont Housing Conservation Board. It basically requires that you preserve the historic characteristics of the building and meet the Secretary of Interior's standards for any changes. And those are a set of guidelines that, you know, tell you what you can and can't do. You don't have to restore the building, but you can't make it any worse. You repair rather than replace things. And it also requires that you check in. We have to get approval from the easement holder or the easement monitor for major changes. And in this case, which is what we did with Next Stage, which was a big renovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of changes there.
Yeah.
And I, you know, as a historic preservation professional, I was involved in that. And I wanted to make sure ahead of time that they were comfortable with all those changes, and then we would put the easement on and they were okay with it all. And I would do the same with this, you know. I would run through the proposed plans with them to make sure there's nothing we're doing though that I would feel uncomfortable with in terms of meeting those standards. But this is something that the select board would, as the owner of the building, would have to be comfortable if we get the grant accepting the easement.
So the easement would only be for about 5 to 10 years?
I think it would be
10 years.
So it wouldn't be in
10.
perpetuity?
No.
And you'd be pretty confident that any kind of interior changes that we made to the building to make it more accessible and modern, those wouldn't pose a problem?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been working closely with Karen and Chip on developing this plan, and
Yeah.
I feel like comfortable with everything that's so far has been proposed.
Okay. Karen?
I'd like to add comments too. So this application will be on behalf of the Putney Historical Society. As town manager and working with the Putney Historical Society to bring this building through the renovation process, it's gonna be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And when Lisa approached me with the grant and Sue, and I'm like, are we ready? But, you know, we're always gonna have to do something here, and if we can start somewhere, and here's an opportunity for some money
Yeah.
with little match from both entities here, and the windows need to be done.
They
period.
have to be done anyway.
They have to be done anyway.
Okay.
So we have to start somewhere. And we had more discussion too. Eventually, we may see a project manager handling the renovation. It may be phased anyways, only because it's such a big project. But as we tie the grants together through the grant writer and the three of us, I think this is a great opportunity, and I would like to see the support
Okay.
on this application.
Are there other questions on the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Lisa, about how long do you think it might take for the Preservation Trust to rule on our proposal?
Oh, that's an excellent question that I'm not sure I know the answer to. The deadline is
The 21st.
21st of December.
December.
I suspect they will turn this around fairly quickly. I'm hoping we would know in January,
Okay.
but I can get back to you on that. I don't know the exact time.
Okay.
But it would be, I believe, because this money is ultimately coming from the National Park Service, so it's federal, we wouldn't see it. We wouldn't be able to start the project for at least 6 months, I believe,
Thank you.
probably.
During the warm weather.
Right.
Yeah, when the weather's warm.
Try not to do that while it's cold. Do you know if there's a deadline as to when we would have to spend the money?
The 2026.
June 2026.
2026, okay.
Yeah, so plenty of time to integrate it with other things.
Theoretically, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it would
It'll
be
come
great.
up fast, but yeah, okay.
It would be, I mean, one of the things that is, that this could be, which I've seen in some of the other projects in town, it's great to have some early money from an outside source, because it shows faith in us and faith in the project, and money begets money, so it's always a good thing to have a starting point like
Okay.
this. It's a significant chunk.
Okay. So do we need to take action? We need to,
So I want to follow through with the 6,500 from the town.
okay.
So we could, in your packet is an application for ARPA funding
Okay.
to match the 6,500. My question, it would be directed to Peg, because of the resolution. There is going to be more renovation on Town Hall, and we may have another application for more money if we can leverage like the MERP funding. So if we ask for 6,500 through ARPA, does that disqualify us for the larger project?
We didn't put in there a limit to how many times a project could apply for money, I don't believe.
We
Right?
didn't.
I think
It's
that's-
not
yeah, I
in
think
there. Yeah, there's nothing about that in there.
I just wanted to be on record and make sure.
Right, it doesn't disqualify. I mean, there might be other considerations but it's not a disqualifying.
Okay. So we would have to know that tonight for ARPA, so we could prepare the application.
They need funding source, we need to obligate a funding source
Yes.
for the grant.
Right.
So you would have to know what tonight?
Whether or not this 6,500 would be approved as an ARPA source.
What, do you want me to respond to that? I mean,
Go ahead.
my response is we couldn't approve that tonight because of our policy around ARPA is that I think that what makes us unable to approve it tonight is that we can't lay it over for 2 weeks before we can revisit it again. That's part of the resolution, is that we won't make decisions. Well, one, that we weren't gonna entertain applications till February, but that can be waived if there's a urgency, if you can make the urgency case. But the part that I would not feel comfortable waiving is the waiting
2 weeks.
for 2 weeks before making a decision, because I think that's super important to the transparency of spending the ARPA money, is that we get proposals and then we let them sit for 2 weeks so that other people in the town can know what's going on and come to the next meeting with any questions or concerns or be part of the conversation.
Okay, so on that note, I would ask the select board if we could take this match, 6,500 from the town hall renovation reserve fund.
It sounds like that's what that fund's for, right?
I would need a motion.
Yeah, so you need a motion for that. Do we need a motion to approve the grant, or is that through?
Well, I think the
What do we
the
do?
easement right applied, but we do need I think an official acceptance of the idea of
Like
an
an endorsement or
easement.
something?
Yeah.
Oh, the easement. Okay.
Right, I wanted to write up a motion, but I ran out of time. Sue.
Okay, so
I
we
wasn't
need to
quick
make,
enough.
we need to make a motion to approve, let's do these one at a time. So can I hear a motion to approve expenditure of $6,500 from the town hall renovation fund?
Reserve fund.
Reserve fund.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded to appropriate $6,500 from the town hall renovation reserve fund.
Mhm.
Any other discussion among the board? Any comments online? Any comments in the room? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then we need a motion to accept the easement? Is that,
How should we
what do
put
we,
this? To
it's like
agree
an,
with- I mean, maybe the
Ex-
motion is to agree to this grant proposal, which would require
which would require.
Yes.
putting in a preservation easement on the building.
Okay, so can I hear a motion to endorse this grant proposal, which will require a preservation easement on the town hall for up to 10 years?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to endorse this grant proposal, which will require an easement on the town hall for up to 10 years. Other comments on the board? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Are there other actions that we have to take on that, or you're all set for?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Charlie,
you.
Yeah.
Sue just looked it up, and it's February 1 that we would be notified.
Okay, so it's not too far away.
Not too far away.
Okay,
Okay.
good to know. Thank you.
Good job. If you need any help, let me know. But this is your application. No, if you need something from me, let me know. Okay?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Thank you very
much.
It's
Thank you.
very exciting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, the next piece is the Developing Housing Solutions Task Force, Task Force request to support community engagement. That's Christine.
Chris Couturier representing the VCRD Housing Solutions Task Force, and this item probably is a little premature on the agenda since we put it on there. We have spoken to VCRD and they are going to connect with all three task forces to see what would be appropriate, if anything, as a 1 year wrap-up review. You know, where are we, or what have we achieved, and whether that might be a community event or it might be not be that. But if it were a community event, we may come back and ask, the three task forces might come back and ask for some support in the form of funding for maybe some food and music for a gathering. But we'll table that for now.
Okay, sounds good. Any comments on the select board about that? I think it's great that those three task forces are still up and running and doing some work a year out from when we originally did the process. I don't know that all towns get all three of their projects or keep them up that long, but it's good that there's considerable engagement. I think it's great. Karen?
I'd like to make one comment. I think it's important to have more public engagement, especially like if you want to wrap it up. But I also there's still energy in Putney around this process. But I also want to remind people that there are other ideas that were left on the table.
Yeah.
So maybe having this public engagement will re-energize those other ideas and bring more work out of that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having another meeting. Yay!
Anything with food. I'll go with anything with food. Okay.
And only if we can also plug town committees too.
Right.
So like just a general, let's, rally the forces and reactivate, remotivate. I mean, it's not remotivate, it's continue. I mean,
Right.
I agree with Eileen. I think it's super impressive how much we're doing.
Yeah.
And
It's
how much
a
the
lot.
task forces have spawned. I think it's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a budget too for public engagement.
Good.
So,
Have a party.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments on the board?
thank you, Christine.
Any comments online about having a party? Any comments in the room? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the Mill Street Christian Square suggested one-way with sidewalk and parking alternatives. That's you? Okay.
Christine,
Okay.
I didn't put any names on there.
Yeah, Chris Couturier here, not as a task force, just as a community member. And it crossed my mind with some of these walkabouts with the housing task force and with my activities with the community center and the food shelf over the years, it occurred to me that the question of why traffic on Christian Square is the way it is. And I ask people about why isn't it a one-way street? It could be a turnaround. It could help with traffic flow at our little mini malfunction junction there. And I figured there must be some objection, some obstacle, something I don't understand, something related to the paper mill, and no one has ever come up with anything. So I'm asking a question of, is there a reason that that cannot happen? And if none are known, I think it might be worth exploring that, making Christian Square a one-way street, entering at the paper mill, coming out at the Catholic Church. The paper mill trucks could potentially still exit the way they do now. It would provide more, you could put sidewalks partially around there or on one side or the other. Maybe parking, additional parking on one side, because the community center and the food shelf really struggle with parking. And as a member of a liaison to the VCRD Develop a Community Center Task Force, you know, we talk about what to do with that building and what are the shortcomings and what's needed to make that community center building function more fully. And with our population, it would be great to have sidewalks and accessibility and safety and parking nearby for many, many reasons. And with all the activity that's going on in the town, looking at housing, at downtown revitalization, at all of these things, that seems like a wonderful place to at least explore, incorporating that into what's going on in the town and some of the problems we're having. And I haven't talked to any of the residents or the paper mill or the businesses there, but I know as a member of the community center board, they would be very interested in exploring that possibility. So I'm interested in input. I think it would lead to pedestrian safety. It would give access to the folks back in the Putney Commons. Add to our street parking and even a turnaround. You know, people are always looking for a place to turn around and doing U-turns and three-point turns and things. And you know, at least for people who live here and know that what that is, they could use that as a turnaround. So.
I think that the first step would be to talk to the people who live on that street and utilize it every day, including the paper mill. As far as the select board is concerned, we have control over the roads. There may be, you know, if we're doing sidewalks and other things, there may be issues with setbacks and other pieces. But in general, I agree we need more parking. I also find that whole thing kind of funky. So I think, theoretically anything is possible there.
So for 18 years, I actually grew up right there. The house in the center, the blue one, that's my mom's house. And whenever the community center would hold a function, not just the food shelf, but like when they would do the dances or the movie nights and stuff, people would park on our lawn.
Yeah.
So any parking besides my lawn would be awesome. And I love the idea of a sidewalk too. Like, I grew up there, it's very sweet.
Yeah, I don't know whether, somebody mentioned it to me over the last couple days, and I was like, what a brilliant idea. I just had such a positive reaction, just thinking, I just think it makes so much sense. So I would would love to look at it more and see what it would take to do something like that.
Karen?
So I just want to comment, I don't know what the process is to change a road to one-way, but I can research that.
Yeah.
And then also with the sidewalk component, I would want to involve the planning commission,
Right.
just to get that on their radar. I know we're looking at one sidewalk already, but there are others in town, so I think if we start crafting the list,
Mhm.
at least we'll have it on our radar. But I will definitely, we're gonna have to do some public, meetings just to get input.
Yeah,
But let me do a little legwork and see
Okay.
what the process is,
yeah,
and then we can
okay.
talk about it some more.
Yeah, I think that's good. And try to keep it on our radar too, because,
Yeah,
so I'll try to put something on my calendar just to,
yeah.
Give us
Because we
a-
do have homes down on Mill Street,
yeah,
so coming up, of course they would just, go left, but
right,
it could work. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and thank you, Christine, for bringing that up, because I never thought about it. And if we're gonna try to have connectivity and accessibility, that's a short stretch right there.
Yeah.
And if we can make it work, then we can make it work just about anywhere.
right. Okay, I have two hands up. I have Doug first, and then I have Janice. So Doug, you're up.
Thank you. This is Doug. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I happened to chat with her as we walked on the street last night, and it occurred to me during the village property owners meeting last week, I happened to have a similar conversation with a person who lives in that right next to Nate. I don't know her name. I've never seen her before, but she said, yeah, the trucks come in, they do a U-turn right now, and it doesn't bother her. And the only problem I have with it, we have two turnarounds right now. One is at Swirl, and that's almost an impossible turn if you're coming the wrong direction. If you're in a big rig, the big rigs have done some damage at the bank, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's coming in, they don't know how to get out. So Swirl is not a very good option unless you were to do some major work to make a turnaround. And then also, the guys that did my excavation last week, I asked them where did they turn around? They said, in the town hall parking lot. So, they had a trailer that they put their excavator on and they drove right through, no problem. But my concern is the length of a big rig making that turn at the diner, the pizza parlor there. I just can't imagine. So I think we need to be really careful. And then the other thing is we need to advertise. We need to have a sign at the other end of town, down by the co-op or someplace where people come into the town and say, beware, but if you get stuck, there's 3 places you can turn. So I think we need to have signage would really be helpful. Otherwise people come in blind,
Yeah, well, the bank has ample signage, and they still end up getting whacked. So I don't know that signs will help, but maybe some.
That sign is too late. Once you've got that far,
Yeah.
it needs to be outside of town and say, don't enter at your own risk. No way to get out.
Concrete barriers. Okay, Janice.
I was like Peg, I was so excited when I read this. I think it's a great idea, and it just feels like much more villagey to me. However, it does raise a concern that I've had, which is, and I really appreciate the fact that you put a no parking sign at that last, in that section
right.
there. Well, people are not, at least in the Fridays and Saturdays that I'm in Food Shelf, people are not observing that.
Okay.
So, that's still an issue as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if other people in the town feel that way, whether you can paint something that makes it clearer. When I pointed it out to people, they're like, oh yeah, and they've moved, and other people just ignore me.
Concrete barriers.
That's
my answer to
But
everything.
if you're gonna have more traffic coming out there more frequently,
Yeah.
that would be a bigger concern even than just for Friday and Saturday mornings.
Yes, yeah, it is definitely a visibility issue there, if
Yeah.
people parking there.
I agree.
So that would be something that we would have to look into if we were looking into that whole section. So,
Right.
So we'll keep that conversation open. Sue?
Yeah, we're going to hear, I think, people are excited about what the town can be. This is a conversation that is really on. We heard from Claire Wilson at the November 15th meeting a strong plea to make some changes on Kimball Hill to get people to go more slowly there. But there was, and the select board can act on it, but what I'm just going to say from a planning commission perspective, we're going to see a lot of these. This is an indicator of excitement and enthusiasm, but it's hard to take them all individually one at a time. The town plan calls for a comprehensive village plan working with V-Trans, because we can't make a lot of these changes unless we do it with V-Trans. Last year, in February, there was an attempt supported by the town to apply for a Better Connections grant that involves multiple agencies led by V-Trans to do that comprehensive look at the streetscaping and roadways. So I would love to see us move, and there may be another opportunity this February, I'm not sure we're ready to go for that, but Discover Putney is very interested in this. So I'm just saying maybe we can begin to plan together about what are the kinds of things we want to see that could go into this application. It will be stronger if Better Connections sees this town interest in these questions and opportunities that we see. So I just want to throw that out as a comprehensive process, because it's quite hard for this little town to address 5 different requests like this, and they actually have implications like Doug was talking about. Well, how does it work with the big rig, and how do we deal with these other issues? So I just wanted to say this is very exciting to hear, and I've presented to Karen that we should be applying for a grant, in the next 12 months anyway, to be able to do that comprehensive look. So I want to throw that out.
Just a V-Tran grant like that would cover not just the state road.
That's right.
It would cover
the things adjoining all around it as a whole flow.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking of them as just being the route, like their investment was in Route 5 and they were.
There's 4 agencies involved, including housing and community development. So it's meant to be, Better Connections meant to try to connect to all the parts of the town and different types of transportation, pedestrian, biking, as well as vehicles. So, and we just can't solve it unless we talk to V-Trans, because it's the center of town.
Right.
They have engineers on staff.
Yeah.
And we're gonna need those folks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are there other comments on this? It's the Mill Street Christian Square suggested one-way with sidewalk and parking alternatives is what's on the agenda. Any comments online? Any other comments in the room? Any more comments on the select board? Okay, thanks for bringing that up. And we'll keep talking about that. Do we want to take a 5-minute break? It's 7 o'clock. Yes?
Sure.
Yes. I think we've got a ways to go, so let's do that. So we will reconvene at 7:05. So it is 7:07 and I'm calling this meeting back to order. We are going to move a couple things around just so that we can let Emily go back home. So we're gonna basically we're gonna just move the communities on item C. We're gonna move the community service agencies group B review down below present and review and discuss operating budgets, because I anticipate that's gonna take a bit of time. So nothing else is changing. So the next thing on our list is the adoption of the Putney Town Plan 2023 to 2031 with final edits, and that is Sue. Yes.
Oh, I don't have a copy. Here.
That's drum roll.
You all have on your desk a copy of the final Putney Town Plan. It says adopted December 13th, 2023, so that we don't have to reprint them. Respectfully request that the town approve a resolution to adopt this town plan as its town plan, and 2, to request Wyndham Regional Commission review of the town plan for compliance with state and regional planning goals.
Anybody would like to make that motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the Putney Town Plan for 2023 to 2031 and to approve, what was it? I'm sorry, I missed that part. Review.
To
request review from Wyndham Regional Commission
for compliance
with
state and regional planning goals.
what she said. So that's been moved in second. Is there any comments in the room? Are there any comments online? Is there any comments on the select board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a town plan.
Planning Commission.
Robin's on.
Robin, there you are, Robin. Thank you, Robin.
Yay.
Amazing note-taking. That really was very important, so thank you.
Right.
Wow.
Okay, so that was easy. Okay, the next piece is the Sandhill Cooper's Field Purchase and Sale Extension. That's Karen.
Yes, so,
Oh, sorry, Robin. I'm moving too fast. Hey, Robin, you're up.
I just wanted to say thank you all and yay!
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the Sandhill Cooper Field Purchase.
So I received an email from Christine, and they're gracious enough to extend the purchase and sale because our deadline was December 31st of this year. I've been in contact with Larry Slyson. He will make an amendment to the purchase and sale.
Okay.
I did receive that today, to extend the date. So we just need to figure out what that date looks like. And once we finalize that, then we can sign off on the extension.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, we were hoping January, February, sometime in early 2024.
Okay. That's good. December crept up on us before we knew it. All right. Is there any comments on the board about that? We don't have to make any action, right?
No, because I'm going to get the addendum to the purchase and sale finalized.
Okay.
I'm trying to look ahead. So February 1st is like a Thursday, but I can't really, 31st of January. No,
21st is a Wednesday, for sure.
So 10, 24th. I think the 24th of January is like our last meeting in January, so maybe February 7th.
Oh, that's 2024, not
Is that early enough?
Yeah.
Christie?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right, yeah, that'll give us time in January to tease that out a little bit.
All right, that sounds good. Are there any comments online about the Cooper's Field purchase extension? Any comments in the room? Any further comments on the board? Okay, so moving to the town meeting preparation ongoing, and we're presenting and reviewing and discussing the operating budgets, which is the library first. Hi, yay! Hi.
I think I made the mistake of diving right in last time, but I just want to, am I the first budget that you have all reviewed this fiscal year?
I think we did a preliminary on the general budget, right? But mostly.
Right, we haven't really talked, we haven't gone into depth about any of the budgets.
All right, and mine's a little bit of a different layout anyway, so I'll just.
Right, it is tonight, but it won't be
No,
next
not in the
meeting.
town report. Right.
How do I share this? I can't get to my desktop to share.
You cannot remember, oh,
Oh, because you're
you're
recording.
recording.
Oh, hang on a minute, I don't have to
If you
record.
go down to the.
Hold on a minute. Oh, no, I can't do it that way either. I can't run this.
You can't share
Yeah,
from
you can share
there?
screen, yeah. Oh, you don't have.
Oh, you don't have it
already.
open.
It's, no, it's on my desktop. That's where they put it. Hold on a minute. Yeah.
So,
I don't understand this.
stop recording for a second, minimize. Wait,
They were
Recording's
writing.
paused.
oh,
My other idea is if you open Excel at the bottom in the ribbon, and then you might be able to go to open. I don't know. This is a bold experiment.
Let's try.
Oh. And then, yeah, and then if you go to.
Oh, yeah, what you
There you
have.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, and then go back
But then we
to,
have to turn recording back on, and then you'll be, now that it's open, you'll be able to share the screen.
yeah, go back to Zoom
Yeah.
meeting and then share it.
Yeah.
Do I really have to share it though?
For the
If
people
you
online.
at home wanna see,
Share screen.
I think you didn't successfully click share screen.
Yeah. Am I good? No?
Go
No.
back down to the share screen.
Yeah, there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, okay. All right, so for the people online, do you see an Excel spreadsheet now? Can somebody answer that question?
Yes.
The answer is yes. Oh, Galen says it's yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, okay, you're up.
Cool, thanks guys. The way mine is broken down is we're seeing 3 fiscal years here, in like kind of the gold, in the columns up and down. The gold is the last completed fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2023. The blue, which is only one column, our budget, not actuals, is the fiscal year we're in, fiscal year 2024, and the green is the fiscal year that I'm proposing. Are you good, Karen?
I'm good.
She's trying to remove the people.
Things. Yeah.
But I think we're good enough. We're good.
You know what? You could hide column B and it will make it narrower because there's nothing really in there.
All right.
It's just like the line numbers.
I can do that.
Okay. That makes it maybe a little bit easier for folks to see.
All right.
So we have all 3 of those fiscal years, and then it's divided into revenues, money that the library takes in for its operating budget, and expenditures. And up at the top are the revenues, and I can start with that. For the most part, I think I'm just going to highlight things that are different. We have our different fee-for-service things. We have a very small ongoing book sale that's always happening. I've raised the budget for how much we're going to make with that to $700. And I've also raised the expectation for out-of-town fees. Our out-of-town fees went up this last year. So I brought that up a little bit too. The other thing that you see that's higher is the town allocation. This is the money that's raised by tax dollars that appears in the general fund budget as the library allocation. And you can see that's gone up $11,652. The other sources of income include the transfer in from fundraising and the trustee appropriation. Those are monies that our trustees fundraise and then contribute to the operating budget. We also have an area for endowment interest. So we're leaving that in as $3,000. Trying to think, some of these, we have a miscellaneous grants line that we put in as 0 because we can't necessarily anticipate how much grant money we're going to take in. But I have started putting in our courier grant, which is money we receive. We're a subrecipient of a federal grant that subsidizes our courier, which is our interlibrary loan. It's exchange of books with all the other libraries in Vermont. Many of you have benefited from it. Does anybody have any questions about the revenues? It's just that top chunk of lines up above the bright yellow line that says total. And you guys you're able to see if anybody has any online.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. Or, I mean, you can also see, I don't know, I know you guys have your system.
Yeah.
Okay. They'll pipe up.
Yeah, hopefully they would come after the.
Okay. And then below we have all of the expenditure lines. The way this is laid out is that the bright yellow horizontal lines are totals of the lines below it. So we have these like bright yellow summary lines and then the detail down below them. It's great that cleaning is the first one because it makes it really clear. It's cleaning, it's just that one line, it's cleaning, and that's the same. Instead of reading each of these, I'm just gonna kind of hit on the ones that have increases. There are a bunch of ones with decreases, but not all of them. So we're asking for a little bit extra for the parks passes. It's a really well-used program, and some of those passes have gone up in cost. Below that, maintenance and repairs is expensive every year. Our building's getting older, and usually if that is a line that we tend to go over, and just if there's an unexpected repair. A little bit more for each of the different circulating lines, adult and children's books. Everything keeps getting more expensive. I have lowered our postage cost a little bit. The postage line, the spirit of it is to pay for the rest of the interlibrary loan courier now that we don't use mail for it. It's a much cheaper way of doing it, so I've been able to kind of take that away a little bit each year. There's a big one in the technology budget. We have been the recipient of a subsidized fiber internet connection that was intended to be a bridge from 10 years ago in 2013 till there were more internet connection options. They ran fiber cable in Vermont and gave it to the public libraries first, and Putney was actually the first library to have it turned on in the state, and that was in 2013. And now that program is ending at the end of this fiscal year. So we're gonna have to start paying for our own fiber internet connection. We were paying 1/3 of the cost per month. So you see a big jump there. It's not huge dollars, it's $2,100, but that's still a 140% increase. We are receiving a $17,000 grant from the State Department of Libraries to ease that transition. So we're upgrading all of our equipment from the 10-year-old fiber equipment to new equipment, and we can use the rest of that money towards this connection fee for as many years as it lasts. That'll be in this fiscal year.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are you staying with First Light?
No. No. It's just there's other cheaper options, so I'm working on that now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. The salaries, there's the 3% increase for everyone besides, I think the substitutes are getting it too, but Karen, the number you gave me didn't include a solid 3% increase for the whole thing.
I'll look at that, because right now, cost of living adjustment is 3.2%. I did put 3% in the budget, but we'll talk more about numbers in a minute.
If you have any input for me or any updates.
I'm pretty sure I did 3% for your...
You did. I think what didn't change was that we had that kind of flat number of $4,000 for substitute.
Right.
And so if we don't change that, then it makes it look like 2.88 instead of 3%.
Yeah, I'll get it to round up to 3.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you can give me that final number.
All right.
We have increases in the different benefits and insurance line, most notably in the health insurance. I'm sure that's true across the board.
Across the state.
But then in the utilities, we have some good news, which is that we received a generous grant from the Association of Small and Rural Libraries last year for sustainability efforts, and we converted all of our lighting to LEDs. It was totally covered by the grant, which is great, and it means we can ask for a little bit less in the electricity line. And Karen gave me good news with the heat line too. So the oil cost per gallon of oil is down,
yep,
which is great. Yep. So we're seeing a little bit of savings in those lines, and then a little bit less in liability insurance. So those are all of the project or budgeted expenditures.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for me about that?
Anybody on the select board? Does anybody online have any questions about the library budget? Karen?
No, I just want to make a few comments here. So again, as you look at budgets, your revenue and your expenditure have to match. The bottom line has to match, okay? So this library budget is up 4.75%. What I have learned is when you level fund, it usually means it's everything in your budget, all the items remain the same, okay? The cost may go up because of inflation, as we know. So salaries go up, health insurance goes up, liability insurances, anything that we don't control go up, but it still means you're level funding. So if I wanted to put $100,000 for capital improvements, that's not level funding your budget, okay? So I just want to explain that a little bit.
Adding something.
That is correct. So across the state, on listserv, there was an email thread, and a lot of the town managers threw out there what their budget increases are. Some are looking at between 4% all the way up to 14%, and there's like almost 10 towns on this list. One town near us is seeing a 35% increase in their budget. So we do the best we can. We're not the only ones in this situation. Everybody, and compensation, towns are doing compensation studies to get in line because of competitive towns. So up north, they have a bigger problem with that. But just talking to other towns and finding out what they're paying particular, people, I'm like, oh boy, it's not gonna get easier. I'm hoping with the reappraisal that our grand list is gonna grow, so if we see any increase in our budget, we might be able to stabilize for a year or two, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But this is very tricky, and timing is, important, but again, some things, we do the best we can to gauge what our budget might look like.
Always a fun time of year.
Yeah. But I just want people to understand that, because when somebody says, well, I don't want to see our taxes go up, well, there's a lot of different factors that contribute to a tax rate going up. And there are multiple budgets. We're a small town, so, we're not seeing $1 million, multi-million-dollar budgets, but this is something we're gonna face year after year, but
As long as we rely on property taxes, it's a fixed, we're only so big unless we, take over another town.
and there's other ways, and we'll get into that discussion probably next week in our special meeting. About how do we be creative and bring in other revenue to offset our operating budgets. Because I think there are ways.
There definitely are.
We just need to think it through and make sure it's gonna work for Putney.
They're never gonna completely we're never gonna completely get away from property tax, but they might reduce the burden somewhat.
Right.
Yeah. Jess?
Yeah, I'd just like to emphasize, I think you all know, and Karen certainly is part of this, the library does an amazing amount of programming for all ages and interests, and the reason we can do that is only partly because of the fundraising that the board does, but a big, huge part of it is all the grants that Emily, and in cooperation with the town and other partners, that we're able to do. We never could do the kind of things we do if we just relied on the appropriation from the town and a little bit of fundraising that we're able to do.
Yeah.
So it's a big part of her job, you know, that she does so amazingly well, that we don't even know sometimes that
Right.
she got this grant for this thing. Yeah.
I tell you when I get the grant.
I know. You do. We don't always, I often do, but we don't always know all that goes into applying for some of these grants and the deadlines and everything. But they really make a huge difference in what the Putney Library is able to offer to the community here, you know.
Yeah. I think that's true of the town too. We rely heavily on grants to get
Yes.
some of our stuff done. Yeah. So, let's keep applying for them.
Yeah, and it's so fun to see the range of stuff going on at the library.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
It's really, really fun.
Are there any other questions for Emily? Janice? Library, budget? Anybody online have any questions? Okay, so hearing none, thank you very much for waiting it out.
Thanks, yeah.
So moving on to sewer and water.
All right, so in your packet is the sewer and water NEMRIC version of the budgets. So again, this is kind of like throwing in numbers there, and I talked to Joe to get a handle on like chemicals and, you know, like sludge removal from the sewer plant, and you know, I thought about, like, do we put it out to bid to see if we can get some better contract pricing, but, you know.
Or the sludge removal, or
For
whatever.
For
operations,
you know, for
Yeah,
operations, yeah.
Probably limited options, aren't we?
Yeah, we are limited, but, you just never know. I mean, some companies get complacent and, you know, and every year
Very true.
I'm over budget and I'm like, why? So, so Joe and I have had a conversation. I did the best I could with these costs. Sewer budget is up by $18,952.19. I will state that I have to revisit the fee structure for both the sewer and the water, and I anticipate there's going to be an increase just to cover the budgets.
Okay.
Again, trying to be creative, right? I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen, but we do have to cover the costs because, you know, it's coming out of surplus if there's a deficit, and we can't continue to do that. I mean, the bond, you know, for both of these, one will be paid off in 2032 and the other one's 2040. That's still a long ways away.
Yeah.
So January, I'm gonna visit that. And Sue, that was one of the items I'm gonna add to the Wyndham Regional, is to update the sewer and water ordinance.
Okay.
Ordinances.
Yeah.
And look at the fee structure, and hopefully by July 1st, if we can get the grant. But I definitely need to look at the fee structure and figure out the process, what we need to do. We're gonna have, I'm sure, public meetings and.
Are the fees are they within the ordinances?
No, they're not.
Okay.
So basically what I gotta do is look at the billing and then back out of that formula to cover this. And then I have to figure out, do we want, you know, a little bit for surplus, you know, so we can continue to put money away.
Okay.
But if we have to do an upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant because we're trying to do infill housing, you know, the only way we're gonna be able to do that is with a bond, I'm sure. And that's more financial burden on the users. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was something that the town has struggled with in the past, and I believe that at one point there was, the whole town was paying for that bond, right?
so there's $40,000 that the entire town, as an expense, and then it was transferred over into
Right.
water and sewer.
Right, so, I mean, I'm of the belief, and full disclosure, I am on the sewer system. I am of the belief, though, that there is a certain benefit to the rest of the town that's conferred by having a water and sewer system. And so while I fully support those of us that are using the sewer system to pay a quarterly fee, I'm not certain that I would support having a bond, another bond, be imposed on just the users, especially if the entire town is voting on that bond. That doesn't seem really fair to me. So I just want to put that out there. But that's a future discussion.
That will be a discussion we have as we revisit
Right,
the structure.
right. Robin, you had your hand up briefly. Did you still have something to say?
No, we just, we're gonna ask you to stop sharing Karen's screen.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't see you guys.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Is there other comments before Karen goes on?
So basically, you're gonna just review this, and next week we can talk more about it. But one line on the sewer, and the water has the same thing, so it's page 2 of your sewer proposed budget. Depreciation expense. So,
Sewer, not water.
yeah. So it's always remained at 30,000, but it's always been higher. So what happens is at the very end of the fiscal year, through the audit, the wastewater treatment plant depreciates. And that number is shown as an expense in this budget. Kind of like a liability, right? And it's always been under budget. So I increased it this year to make it more in line with what it could be. So I'm hoping that's gonna help, but by doing that, it also increases, the operating budget, and now I gotta revisit the fee structure.
Okay.
So it is $5,000, but, out of 18,952, 13,000, I'm still gonna have to look at the fee structure.
Yeah.
Wish there was an easier way to do budgets, but there's not.
If there was, then everybody would do the budgets.
Right. So the water department is, the same thing. Their depreciation on page 2 is much higher. But you can see, like in fiscal year '23, so we budgeted 25,000, but the actual depreciation was $57,000. So that gives you, it puts you in a negative position.
That comes from the audit, so they're coming up with that number?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so
what impacts that?
it's a fixed asset.
Yeah.
So any fixed asset, every year it depreciates. So I'm like going, but if this is just on paper, but it's part of that budget. So you still have to show it as an expense.
Right.
So in hindsight, we gotta make it up in the revenue to cover, because the revenue and the expenditure have to match. If I could just eliminate it, I would, but you can't.
I guess my question is, how does it go? Why does it end up being 57,000 instead of 25,000? Like what?
It's based on the fixed value as it like a car, right?
They must have a chart or some kind of formula.
Depreciation chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
And we have to do the fixed assets every year. in
but
the
we
audit.
don't do it till the end of the year.
Right.
So you're budgeting based on
Right.
what it is currently, and then it changes by the end of the year.
Yes. So I can anticipate that it's gonna go down, you know, for 25. But, I mean, we've been so far off, I'm like, okay, I gotta bring this one in line with
Yeah.
where it should be.
Okay. It doesn't quite make sense to my brain that a depreciation cost would end up being needed to be made up by revenue if a depreciation is really just
It's a paper thing.
it's a paper thing, right?
Right.
It's making,
Right.
it's making the numbers
Yeah.
work. It's,
Right.
the IRS likes it too, but it doesn't equal lost revenue.
And I think I asked Samantha that question
Yeah.
earlier, so I'll ask it again.
Okay.
But,
I'm sure there's a good accounting answer
yeah.
that makes sense to somebody, but
And I may have her email from that.
Okay.
I'll ask the question again. Sometimes it takes me 3 times before I understand it. I'm like,
Welcome to my world, Karen.
why?
But we do get it eventually. That's the
right.
thing, you
That's
know?
right. So, yeah, so there's the water and the sewer.
okay. Any questions, other questions on the water and sewer budget online, in the room? Any comments on the select board? Okay, no. Moving on to the general fund,
So I'm gonna table that one until next week.
okay, highway,
That one you're definitely not gonna see until next week. I
Okay.
have to do some massaging with that one.
okay. So, and I guess, just for the public's sake, we are going to have a special meeting next week on December 20th to discuss budgets. All right, so then moving on to the Community Service Agency Group B review. So this was something I requested last meeting. And so we got all of them, I think. They're all of them in here, right?
Yes,
Um,
and they're in your town report,
Which, on page?
in front of you on page
That's the center, isn't it?
43.
Open right up to it.
Okay, all right.
Here's the list here. Is it in here?
There's a whole list right here, and then there's, they have, the applications are also in here, so, or they were, wait, are the applications in here?
No, they're not.
Okay. Didn't we get them sent?
Aren't these?
I
Didn't
think
you
it's,
send that?
yes,
They were in
yes,
the, they were in the
yeah.
packet.
They were in the email.
They were in the
Yeah.
email?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Did anybody have a chance to look at those?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
They were extensive.
They were, so,
There was a lot there.
so my hope was that we would go through the Group Cs and see if there were any that we wanted to, and possibly all of them, add to Group B. That was my intent with this agenda item. So did anybody have a chance to look, besides Charlie and myself, to look at the applications?
No, I did not look at them.
Okay.
And looking at this questionnaire summary, this is a summary of the ones that have just come in.
Correct.
Okay. So we have
Yeah.
that.
We do have that. The applications do have a little bit more information on them, like, you know, how many Putney, well, it does say here.
Yeah, it
Putney
does say
clients
here. Yep.
So maybe we don't need them. A lot of them had narratives about their services and other things, but maybe we should just stick to this. So the ones that are already in Group B are Sevka, visiting nurses, is that on here?
Yeah.
Did we not get them?
Yeah, VNH is visiting nurses.
It might be the first four. So youth services,
Right.
council,
Council of Aging is Senior Solutions.
senior solutions,
Yeah.
and healthcare and rehab, which is HCRS on ours. So the first 5 on this list are already in Group B. So I think we need to ask ourselves if there are some in here that we would qualify as going into Group B, and if so, how many do we want to put into Group B? Because as we know, if we move it, anything we move up to Group B will dilute the funding.
Right.
So how do you want to go about that? I mean, so one thought that I had was the Windham County Humane Society, we already kind of give them money.
We have a contract with them.
So, I mean, and that's for animal control, but we already fund them.
Right.
So I'm not sure that they really belong in this group.
Could we read again out loud what
the
criteria
policy is?
Yeah, what
do we have? We don't have that.
Do we have?
Is that online?
Yeah, it should be online.
I just think that might help us in this discussion. To remember what we said.
Town of Putney.
I don't think I have that folder here either. No.
Select-board policies. There it is. Okay. I'll start at Article 3. This policy applies to appropriation requests from community service agencies subject to the provision of Title 24, Chapter 73. The Select Board will prioritize programs that provide a significant level of direct services to marginalized members of our community. The Select Board may also choose to appropriate funding to organizations whose mission includes providing public gathering space for the Putney community. Okay, so direct services to marginalized members of the community. So I don't think the Windham County Humane Society qualifies under that.
I mean, yeah, if we're giving them money other ways.
We're already funding them for other things.
I agree.
Okay, everybody else agree? All right. AIDS project, let's just go down the list. AIDS Project of Southern Vermont. What do we mean by marginalized? I mean, I think yeah, it is. I think that it's a great project. I'm not sure that it fits under
What we're looking for.
what we're looking. It's not. Yeah. I think it's not. It's a subset of our population. It's a very important service for them, but it's not something that benefits marginalized people in specifically, I guess, is my thought. And keep in mind that anybody that we take out of this group can always come back and petition. And that's actually why we want to do it now rather than later, so that they have time to petition.
Can we, when we communicate this bad news to people,
Yeah.
can we say that we've had a change? I mean, can we make sure that we communicate to them that we've had a change in our policy and that is necessitating reevaluation of
Their services.
of our funding of all of these services, and that you know, so I just would like people to know that it's like not that it's a broader kind of policy change, not just a
We're not like
we don't
picking
think
you out, yeah.
yeah.
So do we say no to all of them, let them petition? See who really wants it?
Well, we could do that.
It might make our decision easier.
I think
you know?
that makes it way more fair and definitely
Like,
easier
if
for
they
our
want,
part.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. We could just
That's
have them
what
all
that would be
petition.
my choice.
That's a good idea.
That's
I think that's I mean, my first thought was that there were some in here that probably do qualify.
I mean, if they want it, they'll petition it.
Yeah.
It makes our life easier.
Well, I mean, the only downside to
Not necessarily,
yeah,
because.
and the only
come town
downside to
meeting-
that is that potentially gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 warrant articles
Yeah.
If they do it,
if they do it.
what's the likelihood?
Right.
You might be surprised.
Yeah.
But either way, we can get a petition for them regardless.
Yep.
So,
That's true. Yeah.
you know,
It's just if we added some of them, then we wouldn't. We're just eliminating one. I mean, the purpose of our policy is so that we don't have to have them petition every year.
right.
But
So just a quick comment. So each agency did receive a copy of the resolution.
okay, yeah.
So,
And they did also give us. They all did respond to
Right,
the questionnaire.
Right.
So they are
Except
aware.
the root.
Hmm?
The roots
The
of social
root.
justice, they didn't.
there's
Except for
two,
roots, okay.
I think there was two that did not respond.
So we might as well cross them out.
If they didn't respond to it, right? So I guess I'd like to hear a sense of the board right now, whether we're just gonna, across the board, say you need to petition, or do we want to go through this list? It does make it fairer if we just,
That's where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
seems way more fair.
okay. What are you thinking, Peg?
Yeah, the only one that's kind of getting stuck with me is the groundworks one.
Yeah,
You know, that's the one
that is a marginalized community and they do serve Putney residents.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Quite a
that's
few.
the one that I just go like.
And if they petition, it'll go on
Yeah,
there.
I feel like they're gonna get a few people nudging them to be
Yeah,
like, hey.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You know,
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So what will we do with, I'm in the groundworks board, full disclosure.
okay.
How does what you just said affect?
They would have to come back to the town with a petition.
With a petition?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and you can work with Karen on that.
Not me, but
Well,
John Johnson.
Okay,
He does,
the town.
yeah, town clerk.
So, you know, did we give guidance on on what to request? Since we have those agencies that have been denied an appropriation or are requesting a larger appropriation must submit a petition for an article. So I take that to read that what it should say, they either should request to be in group, to be put into our categories, which the only one they would qualify is Group B, or that they give us a specific appropriation.
Which they could.
They can do that.
But they have to write their own petition.
Yes.
We don't write.
No, I know that,
We
it's
don't
just
write
if
the
they,
language.
if we clarify that that's what we're looking for, that might make it easier to crack the warrants. This is the only thought I'm thinking of. I do have two hands up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Swift, you were first?
Hi, yeah, I guess I'm just curious on, this is the first opportunity to use this policy that you just drafted that's so well written and clear, and you're choosing not to use it. And you wrote the policy to make your lives easier and to not have other heavier lifts later. And I would just encourage you to use the policy right now and to make the decision instead of kicking it up the line to put it on the town and voting again. I agree that it's more fair, but what happens next year when you're in the same situation? Are you gonna have it, they'll all go to the town again? It just seems like it's more work when you just decide this clear policy.
I think the reason that in my mind, the reason that we would be going this way this year is we did just change the policy, and we are coming down to the wire as to giving them time to petition if we did take them off. And as to the other part of your question, if the town says that they want to say, for instance, have next stage as a group A, I think we're gonna listen to that, and put them, in that category. And I don't see us making them do it every year, unless they're really outside the line of what we believe the policy, we're expecting the policy to, have in it, is my feeling.
It's really a one-time problem because we have this group C, right? These people who we have funded in the past, and because that category is going away, it seems like we need to make a decision. I don't know. I don't see it as a recurring problem. I think it's something that will be difficult this year, but I think once this decision gets made, it should be pretty easy,
right,
or easier after
right.
that.
Yeah, and to some extent, I mean, what we're basically doing is following our policy and say, well, these ones don't necessarily fit in that group. It's just that we're applying it to all of them and not just a few of them. Because we don't know that they're going to petition. They may decide not to. They were only getting $757 from us anyway, so depending on their budget and where they're
Right,
going.
they who?
I'm
the
sorry,
they here?
Swift.
Who's the they you're talking?
Group C got $700.
All of them.
Yeah, $757 each last year. So, that might be a significant part of some of their budgets and maybe a very small piece of their budgets. So, it depends on where they're at these days. Robin?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, as to your last point, I think that at least for some organizations, the recognition by the town, of their validity and their utility is useful, as well as the actual dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that no doubt has occurred to you. It just seems to me that since you've already kind of started a process using a certain set of rules, that having participated in a petition to get something on the list, it was a lot of work, and there might be sufficient grumbling on the part of people who were applying under one process if they felt that, wait a minute, the process has been changed, to where it would be sort of bad PR. So I would encourage you to go through the process that you've outlined so far as I understand it, and put off a decision to request all parties to petition until next year. Thank you.
Karen? Oops.
So I just want to comment that, and we'll take groundworks, for example, if they petition, they could petition the voters for $10,000. And if it passes on the floor, it's, it's a done deal.
Yeah,
So,
for that year, yeah.
And that would impact.
But doesn't that change the budget?
It would change the budget, yes.
And then what happens?
Then we recalculate the numbers on the floor at town meeting, and it'll increase the budget is what it's gonna do. But like Robin said in Swift, if you go with that policy right now, even if you added all the C into the B, it will dilute that formula.
Yeah.
But you're gonna know what that number is.
Yeah.
Before town meeting. you know, if you have 3 of those groups in C wanting $10,000 each and voters approve everything, then, you know, that's gonna be a burden, especially when you only maybe have 200 people, you know, at town meeting. If it was an Australian ballot, it might be a different outcome, but I just did the math from the town report. So if you took Group B and Group C, added those 2 numbers together, divided it by the number of agencies, you know, the allocation would be, or the appropriation would be $1,969.
If we added them all into Group B.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
would
I
be
don't-
more for the group
C than
Seers and
B, yes, I don't think
for Group
I mean,
B.
that was not, the intention was not to put Group C into Group B. At least that was not my intention. My intention was to eliminate that group and add those that really do give a considerable level of service to marginalized members of our community, a fighting chance to be in Group B. I guess what I'm concerned about, I guess I'm not seeing a big difference between picking a couple of these and putting them in Group B and then having the rest of them petition versus having them all petition. Because basically, realistically, we'd just be picking a couple of them off and the rest of them could all come back to town and request $10,000. And not only that, but the people that are in Group B could also come back and request more money than they're getting. So we're not really solving a problem by picking a few of them and putting them in Group B. I feel more comfortable about the prospect of just removing them all and having some of them come back to us with a solid argument at town meeting that actually they belong in Group B. And then we'll have some guidance. Like Peg said, I don't think this is an ongoing problem. I think this is a one-time problem. That's my feeling.
I would agree with you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Where are
I
you
don't
at?
feel, I don't feel super strongly about it, so.
Okay. It sounds like most of us are on board with just eliminating the group, the ones that were in Group C, in their entirety. Is that true?
Let them petition.
Yeah. let them
Yeah, file a
petition.
petition.
All right, well then can I hear a motion to that effect?
I move to remove Group C from our social agency appropriation.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to remove the agencies that were in prior Group C from the social agency appropriations. And those at the moment that we have on our list are the AIDS Project of Southern Vermont, Brattleboro Area Hospice, The Gathering Place, Green Mountain RSVP, Groundworks Collaborative, Vermont Adult Learning, Windham County Humane Society, Women's Freedom Center, the Root Social Justice, and Out in the Open. Are there other comments online? Are there any comments in the room? Any other further comments on the board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes and I have lost the agenda. That means we're done. There it is. Okay. So we are done with town meeting preparation, right? That was the end of that?
Yes.
Okay, so the next piece is the select board reports. ARPA applications, that's got your name on it, Peg?
Nothing.
Nothing? Draft flag policy with VLCT, did it get there?
Yeah, it got there.
Awesome.
Garrett, the lawyer, would like to know what our timeline is, like if we really want it to be done now. I told them
I
what our
mean,
timeline has been and
yeah.
what we said in meetings
Right.
regarding it, and we're kind of past that now, so.
We are quite, but I mean, we've gotten to the point where there's a policy and it's, you know, so we're good there. As soon as possible. I mean, not like
They can
with
have a
extra
holiday.
money, but yeah, they can have a holiday. We'll give them a holiday. Sometime in the new year. Let's say the end of January.
Okay.
Okay. Draft sidewalk policy, also with you, Peg.
Yeah, Karen and I met to take an initial stab at this. It's super complicated. I think we'll be ending up kind of bringing it back in pieces, really, because there's multiple different things to consider. But so we have nothing to review yet. We're modifying, we're tweaking. Cool.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the sidewalk policy? Anybody else have anything to report? Anybody online have any questions about any of those policies in process? Anybody in line? I mean, whatever this place is. I'm in my own virtual reality. Okay. So moving on, we still need an executive session, right?
We certainly do.
Oh, right. So we are going to go into executive session, but before that, our next meeting date will be a special meeting. It's December 20th, 2023. That's next week.
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. And then the Wednesday after that, December 27th, 2023, we'll have a regular meeting. Neither Peg nor I will be there, so you guys are all on your own. And that is it. So can I hear a motion to go into executive session under Title I V.S.A. 313A3, which is the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee?
So moved.
Just a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let's do it. Thank you, everyone.